from Channel 4, Nate Feken joins us. Nate, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain too much. Um, just trying to stay as busy as I can through all this. So, just trying to hang in there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. I used to do that TV thing back in the day. I never had to do it during a pandemic. I can remember a couple of occasions, 9/11. See, I wasn't at Channel 4 9/11, so I got to go deeper than that. The start of the Gulf War. Uh, I remember the news director coming in and looking at Big Bob Berry and saying, I'm taking a few of your guys because, quite frankly, you're not going to have much of a sports cast here for the next several days. And so Bob Berry Jr. and I got pulled out of the sports office into news. And I remember my first story was, boy, I love this one. The news director looked at me and said, you cover Oklahoma State. You know the OSU campus pretty good. Why don't you go up there and head over to the I forget what the name of the building is. It's now across from kind of catty corner from the Greenwood Tennis Center. But go over to the Middle Eastern you know studies fraternity or whatever it was called, and go over. I guess it was the Muslim Student Association. I think that's what it was, and go over and do a story over there. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, that I'm sure they'll welcome me over there. And then they looked at Bob Jr. and said, and why don't you go down and do the same thing? I'm sure they got a building like that at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm like, oh boy, this is fun. We can talk, you know, Bedlam Muslim relations here. But anyway, that's what happened. And I know I watched last night. Brian Brinkley's sportscast was he had three or four stories, but I mean it was quick. He was talking fast because he didn't have much time. So that's one thing, Nate. But talk a little bit about the pandemic and how that's changed the way you do your job.
Sure. We have had some of our time cut, but we've been, just trying to keep busy. Actually, yesterday is the first sports, like organized team sports of any kind I've covered since the Big 12 basketball tournament in Kansas City. And the Oklahoma City Energy had practice where they only let X amount of guys and social distance and did all that stuff. And so I covered that. So it was nice to kind of have some normalcy, but wearing masks and watching guys, put on hand sanitizer before they go in and that kind of thing, which is, the smart thing to do and everything. It was just different to be there for that. But we've kind of between, we've been keeping up with all the different updates, and we try to get out and do different stories on how it's affecting people, whether it's high school sports or right after everything happened with in Kansas City with the basketball, college basketball. I interviewed Christian Doolittle and Lindy Waters, especially being both those guys being local guys and being seniors on both the big state teams around here, and guys we've covered for years and years and gotten to know, just to get their kind of opinions on everything, and just talk with other different people on how they've been affected by it that have local ties or and that kind of thing. And it's just been interesting to see how people have handled it and how some people have kind of made good out of it. It's just been kind of cool to see how resilient some people are and how they're kind of working around it. Like I said, to try to keep things going for them and try to keep some normalcy going, I guess.
No, and I thought the stuff you did with the two basketball players, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think Lindy was the first one you did, and interviewed him back in. It looked like he was back in Norman. He went to Norman North, as a high schooler. But yeah, I thought that was some really good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, that's also been the kind of the interesting thing too is right now we can't. Usually, I would have interviewed both those guys at the station or at Lloyd Noble or Gallagher Iowa, but everywhere is closed, including we're not taking any guests in our station right now, just for safety, health purposes, and that kind of thing, which I
Sure.
totally understand. And especially with all the different people we deal with, and just to kind of keep a safe work environment. So I think I interviewed Christian kind of in the parking lot of our station. Lindy, um, he couldn't think of anywhere because, like I said, it's everywhere's closed. Even Norman North High School was a place I thought about, or different gyms that may be down there in Norman. And so we finally kind of came together and realized, well, what about Reeves Park down across down in Norman? And so that's where we met, was in Reeves Park. So it's like I said, it's been interesting trying to kind of find workarounds for us, and then talk to these guys, men, women, athletes, coaches, as they try to find workarounds to keep everything going for them. And it was good to hear from both those guys. And I was really impressed at both Lindy and Christian with how well they handled that. And I think maybe it helped a little bit that both had played most of their senior year, where it wasn't like baseball or softball or gymnastics and some of the other different winter, springtime sports. But they got most of their year in, and I'm sure it is very painful to not to get to finish out the Big 12 and NCAA tournaments and any other postseason options. But I was really impressed with both those guys, with how mature they were about it, and how well they handled it, and were appreciative of their time at both schools, and also at the same time, trying to keep an open mind about their future and preparing for that. So it's, like I said, it's been interesting to get everybody's kind of different situations they're in, and just how they're handling it right now.
Yeah, you're also every day you're in a newsroom, so or you're at least next to a newsroom, so you catch a lot of the information and the things that fly out of there. Uh, all those reporters that deal with the the government, the state government, and city leadership and the medical field, and so you're in an area where you probably can get a pretty good feel for where we're going outside of just the typical opinions from sports people, which is pretty much all I get. I mean, I talked to Doc Ivan at Oklahoma State and so forth, but most of the people I talk to are out of the athletic administration or coaches or so forth. But when you just kind of decipher what you're hearing from the newsroom, does that make you feel positive that we're going to have some things to do in the fall, or does it make you feel like, oh man, all these athletic people think they're going to play, but God, if what I'm hearing in the newsroom, we ain't got no chance. I mean, where are you on that?
Sure, I have just kind of tried to keep an open mind with it, because it's kind of like some of the health officials say. I don't think anybody truly knows what's going to happen, a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, a year from now. So I've just kind of try to keep an open mind to it all, and not get either too up or too down on any of it, because you do hear positive things, and different positive statistics, whether it be from government or government officials or health officials and that kind of thing. And then you also see negative things, numbers, and death totals and all that kind of stuff. So I've just kind of tried to be positive, maybe from a selfish perspective, like all sports fans maybe right now. But I hope that it's all going to improve, and we get sports of some kind going forward. Maybe even if there aren't any fans, or it's limited fans, just so we have that normalcy and have that distraction kind of going forward, or something for us to kind of look forward to, and take joy in for those couple hours every week, or nights each week, that kind of thing. So I've just kind of tried to keep an open mind with it, like I said, because there is so many different varying statistics and opinions you see each day. I mean, it changes literally almost hourly on the positive and negative sides of it. So that I selfishly, as a sports fan, I hope with some of the positive things you see and hear, that we get sports soon. But I'm also prepping myself for facing maybe no fans, or maybe it is a delay or that kind of thing. So it's been kind of weird. I've just kind of been trying to keep level headed through it all, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I told the audience this before you came on that I'm a Channel 4 alum, but honestly, I think I may have been in the building one time. Well, no, I used to go by there a lot back when I right after I left and was at Remington Park, but I say in the last 10 years or so, I think I came in there one time just to look over the new building, the new facility, the Bob Berry Jr. um, room there that they have, saluting saluting them. Um, so I'm not around a lot, and I wasn't around a whole lot, the last few years. I would see Bobby away from there, but he always told me, he goes, I really like Nate. And he goes, he reminds me of you sometimes because Nate will grab a camera, he'll go, he comes back in 2 hours and he's got a complete story. I mean, he shoots, he edits, he tells a story, and Bobby used to kid me. He goes, "Man, you're the best one man banner I've ever seen," and he goes, "Nate reminds me of that because he can do that same thing you used to do," and I mean that was one of the things that made Bobby and I click as a team. I was a decent anchor, but I wasn't anywhere close to him. Anchoring, I mean, you could throw him out there on the set, tell him he had 8 minutes, and he had nothing prepared, and he'd give you 8 damn good minutes. I mean, he could make it up, and he taught me a lot, in the ad lib world, and I used to. We had a guy there, Robbie Robertson, that we worked with. Well, Robbie taught me write out your script on your highlights, even time it out before you go out and do the sportscast. And so, I mean, Robbie got a hold of me, and he had me doing that, and Bobby, when I started working with him more on the weekends, and I started filling in and anchoring and he'd go, "Man, you're stiff. Get rid of those Robbie notes. Just write two or three words down and then fly, ad lib it." Well, it got to the point where Friday nights we're voicing our package live on the weather mic. I mean, because we didn't have time, we'd edit right down to the last second. It was kind of a contest how close we could come without totally. And we drove Bob Senior nuts, but Bobby would brag about, hey, Nate Feken, Nate does those things. And so I've got to ask you. I mean, uh, working with Bob Jr., the things you learned with him, because that's something we have in common. And I know you cared a lot about Bob Jr.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am without him. He actually, I don't know that a lot of people know this. He tried to hire me while I was in college. I think 3 times. But he also wouldn't hire me until I graduated. I'm very thankful he did, which I barely escaped with a college degree. Um, so, but I really wouldn't be here without him. And you're right. I took so many things, and Dylan is this way too. After getting to work under him for a while, from him, and that was, you talk about him being able to ad lib. I mean, like, people didn't know. It, one of my favorite things, and I'm sure you've heard him say this before, or heard him say this when you worked with him, but he could walk off the set and have almost no preparation, and he'd say, no one at home ever knew the difference, and that's how good he was.
Nah,
And
uh,
you're right. And with highlights and that kind of thing, he chose to really show off his personality, and that's something he wanted anybody else that worked under him to kind of do too, is to show off your personality, and that was through maybe not necessarily minimal facts, but just keeping it. He'd always just say, just give me the name." And
yeah,
as long as he knew who was doing what, he could walk you through what was happening. And I think that's something we try to incorporate today. And Dylan and I still joke. There was one night I was doing high school football, and it was when Dylan Stoner was still at Jinx, and I can remember doing, like you were saying, getting in super late. Like 5 after 10, and we're on at 10:20, and people always get like heated every now and then over, why didn't you get the end of the game? Well, we have to factor in driving back, have to factor in putting on makeup, have to factor in writing our on camera intro, and then editing the highlights, and then putting down those names and things. And there was one night, kind of how you described, where I got back super late. I didn't really have time to write it all down on a sheet of paper, even the names. I was just going to go off the top of my head. That's what I can remember yelling at Dylan Stoner. He's an OSU commit, right? He's from Jinx. He's really good. And emailing back, like having to Google it and look it up to make sure. And yeah, going out and doing that. But yeah, everything I do is because of him, modeled after what he did and how he did it. And it's pretty easy as you mentioned, to see that it works. I mean, the guy's ultra successful. He's in every Hall of Fame he's probably been up for, and as he should be. And so he influenced a lot of us. And I was always appreciative, kind of like you said. He kind of let us go do what we wanted. He knew we weren't ever going to let the well go dry, if you will, with content for the day. So he only told me maybe what to do, maybe 5 times. And he put a lot of trust in you and I, and Tim Money, Damon Fontenot, and Dylan, and Carson Cunningham. The list goes on and on and on with all the different guys. And so I've just always been appreciative of him and kind of how he let us do our thing. He hired us because he trusted us, and we were able to kind of go do that and learn a lot from him and have a lot of fun. And like I said, it's clearly worked because he learned from his dad, and we learned from him, and learned every Hall of Fame you can dream of, and people love both dearly to this day. So it's been a lot of fun, and like you said, thankfully K4's got a pretty rich legacy because of both those guys.
All right, I got to ask Nate because when I usually get a text from Nate, it's a lot of times something about recruiting. Have you heard what's going on with this guy, or is this guy close to making an announcement? Or okay, you are clued in on the Colin Oliver thing tomorrow.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State fans, this is the rare 4-star guy that Oklahoma State's kind of got an in on. And I'm sure most Oklahoma State fans expect, okay, well, this is our 4-star. Have you heard anything, or what are you anticipating with Colin Oliver from Santa Fe tomorrow at 2?
I don't have any direct insight, but I mean, if you look at OSU's recent run of success, I mean, you literally all you have to do is look at the roster. Calvin Bundy,
Yeah,
Edmond Santa Fe guy, linebacker. Trace Ford, Edmond Santa Fe,
yeah,
linebacker. So there's definitely kind of a really good pipeline going there. He's an in-state guy. I know, based off social media, he seems to like OSU a lot. So I would imagine they've got a pretty good shot at getting him. And it's something I actually, right before you went on, I texted Brian because I'm off today and tomorrow. Like, hey, 2 o'clock tomorrow. Be looking out for this. And we do, as you know, Robert, we do a really good job and probably have the best archive in the city, maybe the state, when it comes to file from different people through the years. So I'm sure we'll be getting some stuff up of him. I know from memory, I think he was hurt a little bit last year. Colin was.
he was.
So I don't know that I got to see him too much, but I do remember. I think you were probably there for this game. I think you were. The Edmond Santa Fe more. I think it was
Playoff.
maybe playoff, maybe even a semifinal game in 6A1. But I got to. We were all kind of watching the Shetron kid too, because he's another big time Santa Fe Wolf
Yeah,
guy to look out for. But seeing Oliver there, and man, he's a big kid. And Dylan played high school ball there, so he's told me a lot of good things about him. So, like I said, based on social media and that pipeline, I would imagine LSU's probably got a pretty good chance of getting him. And like I said, I don't know anything directly inside, but I know we will be watching it and keep an eye on it. And I think it's always cool whenever these local guys play for the local schools, and we get to see them play on Saturdays too. So we'll definitely be keeping up with it. Like I said, he's an impressive looking guy, and there's definitely quite a bit of history there with OSU and Santa Fe in that position in particular for some reason.
Yeah, and he really it's kind of weird. I'll finish with this. Trace is was a kind of more of a defensive end at Santa Fe that
Right.
could was athletic enough to play linebacker and do that kind of hybrid responsibility that Jim Knowles and the defensive coaches have tied into that position at Oklahoma State. Colin is athletic enough. The question will be: is he going to get big enough? And I think he probably will. I think he is very similar. At the end, he'll be very similar to what Trace Ford has been. So we'll see. And yeah, that's one place I should have mentioned. I see you more often when we're on the sidelines at a high school game. Which, by the way, I'm very proud as a Channel 4 alum to say that I see them out at a lot of high school games. You don't always see all the stations at different high school games, but Channel 4 is represented, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and that's something the Berries I think were really great at. I mean, they know or knew that it was a priority, and they made sure that anybody else in between us, and knew that it was a priority. That these are our guys and girls in our backyard, and it's our responsibility in a way to show them, whether it is particular star athletes like Oliver or different teams. And Junior, his favorite event, not the Super Bowl, not the Final Four, not anything else in between. His favorite event was small school state championships at the Big House basketball. That was it. He'd be off, and we'd go cover it, and he'd be parked there sitting courtside watching all day. I mean, as
Yeah,
long as he had a hot dog and could watch or nachos or whatever, could watch his basketball. He was fired up, and that was like his zone. That was his thing. So thankfully, they made it a priority, and it's something we've always tried to carry on. And because, like I said, it is our guys and girls around here, and if we don't get to them a lot of times, uh, the exposure isn't always there, and a lot of it's more than deserved. So it's something we've tried to keep a priority and keep going. And thankfully, they started it, and you and Robbie and Brink even going back. So it's a lot of fun to go do, and it's one of the more fun things about our job, I think. And I'm glad we've made it priority, and people seem to tell us a lot that they enjoy it. So we're going to keep doing it, and trying our best to keep up with it.
hey Nate, I appreciate you being on. Take care.
Thank you, Robert. Anytime, man.
All right, Nate Feken from Channel 4.